Would you join me in reading from Ephesians 2, 1 to 10? I'm reading from the Voice version. As for you, don't you remember how you used to just exist? Corpses, dead in life, buried by transgressions, wandering the course of this perverse world. You were the offspring of the prince of the power of the air. Oh, how he owned you, just as he still controls those living in disobedience. I'm not talking about the outsiders alone. We were all guilty of falling headlong for the persuasive passions of this world. We have all had our fill of indulging the flesh and mind, obeying impulses to follow perverse thoughts motivated by dark powers. As a result, our natural inclinations led us to be children of wrath, just like the rest of humankind. But God, with the unfathomable richness of his love and mercy, focused on us, united us with the Anointed One, and infused our lifeless souls with life. Even though we were buried under the mountains of sin and saved by his grace, he raised us up with him and seated us in the heavenly realms with our beloved Jesus the Anointed, the liberating King. He did this for a reason, so that for all eternity we will stand as a living testimony to the incredible riches of his grace and kindness that he freely gives to us by uniting us with Jesus the Anointed. For it's by God's grace that you have been saved. You receive it through faith. It was not our plan or our effort. It is God's gift, pure and simple. You didn't earn it. Not one of us did. So don't go around bragging that you may have done something amazing. For we are the product of his hand, heaven's poetry etched on lives, created in the anointed Jesus to accomplish the good works God arranged long ago. These 10 verses are a central text of the Christian faith, and they are a challenging one at that. The landscape of chapter 2 begins with death, corpses, rotting, buried in the ground, darkness, alienated by loss, fear, and oppression is the opening notes of what one assumes must be a funeral dirge of a chapter. The Ephesians text with experiential language vividly captures our imaginations. We were dead. That is to say, so caught up in a futile way of life, seeking the approval of others, taking steps away from the fullness of God, aimless and helpless to do anything about it. This is the before picture for humans. You know what I mean, the before picture that fills our Instagram feeds or in magazine advertisements, the picture of that sad slump person in the infamous side-by-side shot, awaiting the all-important after picture. The author of Ephesians offers us a before picture of humanity, which is characterized by 3 features: sin, Satan, and self. Our actions are so broken that our God-intended humanity is dead. The first 3 verses create a backdrop for the 4th verse to shine even more brightly. In verse 4, we read, "But God, with an unfathomable richness of love and mercy focused on us." The author moves us from death to life with sweeping momentum. The semi-dead state in the first 3 verses is never what God intended. This life is infused with the love, grace, and mercy of our Creator. This is the after picture, with the turning point in between being God's limitless, unfathomable, over-the-top grace and mercy lighting the way. The backdrop of darkness gives way to the immense light of God, the shadows illuminated by grace, mercy, and love, a glimmering reminder that the change agent is God. The dark to light movement, the before and after picture, is all God's work. God gets all of the credit in this. The rush of light, of grace, mercy, and love refocuses our eyes and spreads out slowly before us. And as the darkness subsides, the author moves our focus in verses 7 to 10, which reminds us that the Christian life is illuminated by grace, mercy, and love, and it is an invitation to show what God can do through humanity. We are what God made us, verse 10 proclaims. We are the product of his hands, heaven's poetry etched on lives, created in the anointed Jesus to accomplish the good works that God arranged long ago. And the Voice translation gets this piece maybe more correct than other translation. We are God's handiwork, masterpiece. But the word in Greek for what he has made us means we are God's poem. I love that. We are God's poem. Our life is the poetry of heaven. On Call and Commitment Sunday, I want to zoom in on what verses 7 to 10 teach us about vocation. However, verses 1 through 6 in Ephesians cannot be ignored. We are what God made us. Our first calling is to Christ, not to a task, but as a person to our Creator. Our primary calling as followers of Christ is by him, to him, and for him. Ephesians places that clearly before us. And then in verses 7 through 10, the author invites us further into that calling. We are what he made us. Vocation begins with being who you are, with loving what you love, with trusting Creator that we were created on purpose for a purpose. We are what he made us. We are his poem. Ephesians reminds us there is something that we are made to do, that it is God who created us and God who does the calling. I am created by someone for something. You are created by someone for something. And as you consider God's calling today for you, I hope that is a comfort for you. You are created by God for something. Alongside that comfort, there is a challenge that is there. You and I, we cannot be who we are not. Our vocational call emerges out of who we are made to be. It is the quiet uncovering of longing and an openness to the immensity of one's own soul and of the deeper knowing that comes through listening. The word vocation is a Latin word for voice. Vocation then is a calling that I hear. It is not a goal to be pursued. It isn't a voice out there. Instead, calling, vocation, is a voice speaking to our soul, where God dwells, telling us who we are. Parker Palmer says this so eloquently, reminding us that vocation is not a goal to be achieved, but a gift to be received. Discovering vocation does not mean scrambling towards some prize just beyond my reach, but accepting the treasure of true self I already possess. Vocation does not come from a voice out there calling me to become something I am not. Instead, it comes from a voice in here, calling me to be the person I was born to be, to fulfill the original selfhood given me at birth by God. We are what he has made us to be. Discovering vocation then is about listening to that inner voice, to listen to one's life and to explore and understand what it really is about, to listen to the voice that tells us who we really are, that we belong to God, and then telling us what we are to do. The call of vocation follows after the call to belong to Jesus, being who we are and then doing what God has planned in advance for me to be, for you to do, and for us to do. This exploring, discovering, this discerning is about asking God, where can I join you in your work in this world? Is aligning ourselves with the purposes of God. It is in this that we will see who God says we are and then follow that. To take each revelation from God and each invitation from God as they come, being obedient to following God's will for your life. And here's the thing, calling is a paradox because calling is all about you. And it's also nothing about you because it is God who is the one who will do it. And this paradox challenges us to straddle the tension of two conflicting elements and recognize that they both can be true. Calling is all about who I am and also nothing about me because it is God's. This paradox is an invitation for us to discover underlying truths about ourselves and about God. It is an invitation to think deeply with more complexity about God, ourselves, and how each overlaps and intersects within our calling. We are God's handiwork. You are God's handiwork. You are what He has made you to be. So what is there left to do? Follow the invitation of God and do it out of your belonging to God and your calling. Don't be afraid. God is calling you to be who you are uniquely meant to be. You are what He has made you, after all. You are the product of His hand, heaven's poetry etched on your life, created in the anointed Jesus to accomplish the good works God arranged long ago. May you know the God of unfathomable mercy, grace, and love. May you experience the sanctuary of belonging offered by the Father. May that belonging embrace you so that you would know what God has made you to be. May that knowing remind you that you are His. You are His handiwork, a poem etched on the palm of His hands. And may that knowing create the space for listening to your life, for what God has called you to do.